It's really easy to do this stuff we did in the Cold War. So export control, sanctions list, that's not going to stop China. If we try to win a race by standing on the brake, we're not going to do that well. So the emphasis of this administration in the CHIPS Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, to spend money on building or rebuilding our infrastructure and technological base is probably the big story of 2024. I'm Jim Lewis, and I direct CSIS's Strategic Technologies Program. And in the CSIS 2024 Global Forecast Report, A World Dividing, I take a look at U.S.-China tech competition. So tech competition between the U.S. and China is new for the U.S. The Chinese have for decades been comparing themselves and saying, how do we catch up? How do we overtake? So it's not necessarily new to them. What is new is they're a lot more overt about competition. And the U.S. has, after a long period of somnolence, decided it wants to compete too. So the piece is about where the Chinese see competition, where the U.S. has changed its behavior. There was no tech competition with China before Deng Xiaoping. Deng Xiaoping opened China to the West. Before that, you had Mao, who was a very powerful leader, and he impoverished China. Deng came in and said, I'm going to change that by opening to the West. And part of that opening was the illicit acquisition of technology. And the U.S. decided it's okay because we're making so much money. We won't object to this. Starting probably about 10 years ago, people began to get nervous. And so in 2015, you saw the beginning of a change in U.S. policy. And in this administration, and really in its predecessor, a huge effort to restore American competitiveness. We're so used to being the world's most powerful nation that we kind of forgot how to do it. There was a period during the Cold War, we decided to help China build its military technology and its economic base to compete with the Soviets. And when the Cold War ended, we stopped a lot of the military cooperation with China because of the Tiananmen massacre, but we continued the commercial cooperation. At the same time, we ended our own support for science and technology here in the U.S., the R&D spending that had created American power. And we really didn't change that until the last few years, in part because we're seeing a competition with China that we didn't expect. So you've got a whole set of new money going to science and technology to help us catch up with, stay ahead of the Chinese. And that's kind of the story of the competition. For 2024, what you'll probably see is the Chinese are feeling buyer's remorse. They came out of the closet too soon. For a long time, their theory was, we'll keep quiet and continue to grow and continue to get stuff out of the West. The current leader, Xi Jinping, decided China's time had come, and he announced it. Our time has come. What you saw then was people waking up to the predatory trade practices, to the intellectual property theft, to the market distortions, and saying, hey, wait a minute, we've got to change the name of the game with China. So you do have a tech competition now between the U.S. and China. The U.S. is much more engaged, much more willing to spend on its own S&T base. Now, here's the dilemma. It's really easy to do this stuff we did in the Cold War. So export control, sanctions list, that's not going to stop China. If we try to win a race by standing on the brake, we're not going to do that well. So the emphasis of this administration in the CHIPS Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, to spend money on building or rebuilding our infrastructure and technological base is probably the big story of 2024. And the Chinese kind of muttering about how it was a mistake to say it was time for them to move to the center of the world stage. To read the full 2024 Global Forecast Report, you won't be able to put it down. Please visit csis.org.